Hello and welcome to the latest progress video of the effort to restart the Rolls-Royce. Thank you to everyone who has taken an interest in this. I've had a number of people come up to me and say, Jeff, what's happening with the car? When's it going to start? What's going on? What's the latest update? Well, I have had some updates with it. There is nowhere near the amount of progress that I'd like to have. So what I want to do is I want to tell you what I've done so far, and then I want to tell you, in lieu of progress, just so you can be filled in a bit, the actual story of how this car actually came to be, as it were, how I came to have what is now a rather tired and very sad-looking Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow in my drive. Well, the first thing to do is to the progress. Well, we've concluded that I was wrong about the thing I showed you in the back, actually. Looking in the boot here, we looked at this and we thought, oh, hang on, this thing, I showed you it earlier, I lifted all this up, and there was like a little well that was filled full of water. And it's been pointed out to me by a good mechanic friend of mine that that isn't the fuel pump, that's actually just the fuel gauge sender. And ironically, that seemed to still work bizarrely, so it's a bizarre fact. The actual fuel pump, which we think isn't working, is a large unit which is directly underneath here, underneath this, which in its current state is quite hard to access. So the plan is, I had a good friend of mine, Kingsley, come look at it. He had a look around. He's on the team now, as it were, and we've got a plan in place. We've got to work together. And I'm probably going to pull in as many other friends and resources as I can as well. But the plan is to get it jacked up and then to do that. Now, this is obviously an exceptionally heavy car. One of these weighs twice as much as a normal car. And to do that, I have another friend who I've tapped up who runs a truck service repair business just over those houses, about that, a good half a mile that way. I'm going to see if I can't get him for a trolley jack and some axle stands so we can access it. So there hasn't been a massive amount of progress. I've been incredibly busy in my own life. I've been doing a lot of decorating, as you'll probably see in a minute, in my house. I'll just show you around the car. But I thought, rather than give you no report, I thought I'd tell you the story of this car, how I came, little old me, to own a 1973 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. Right now, the first thing I say to you is, if you think they're ridiculously expensive, they are when you first buy them. But you can buy these cars now quite cheap, and for the price of like a newer car, it doesn't actually cost that much. I think this one cost me a little over £7,000. That was when it was absolutely pristine, and you could obviously buy a new car for more than that then, and I just wanted one. But what inspired me to do this was my youth. For want of a better word, I grew up poor. Basically, I grew up in a council estate, and it was always apparent to me that I didn't have much money. I went to a senior school that, bless you, Willingdon Knights, but compared to many schools in the area, class and status was certainly a lot more, shall we say, important. And it was always apparent to me that I didn't have either of those. It was brought to me and reminded to me every day. I was called Jipper, I was called Pikey, I was called a manner of offensive names for not having money. And one thing I wanted to do because of this, was get some money together. In fact, my dad's cars were always just held together with string and haywire, which seems ironic now, particularly when you look at this one, but there you are. And I can remember one particularly humiliating incident where Dad, one time he came to pick me up from school and his car stalled, and he asked me to get out and push, and I did push, and I pushed in front of the entire school, and everyone laughed and jeered, and I was just crushed, I was just crushed. But these things, I'm not whinging. We all have these experiences in our lives, and we either are, destroyed by them or made by them. And I chose to try to get myself out of that. And the first thing I did was to get a job as soon as I could. As soon as I could work, I was working. And I got a job, ironically, at a motor parts shop called Halford's. And I worked all my life. I worked my whole way through. And it came to a point when I was actually doing quite well. I was doing well for myself. I was earning exceptional amounts of money. Unfortunately, I was stupid because I never had any training in how to actually manage wealth. And so I just went out being a young lad and bought, I had a Jaguar, I had a 1967 Triumph Spitfire, and I had a 1973 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow because, I just could do it, And I felt fantastic. I felt like I'd exercised all the demons, as it were, of my childhood. I said, look, what could be better? What could be better? A Rolls Royce. I've got a Rolls Royce. Finally, I'm vindicated. Finally, sorry, excuse the house. I'm actually decorating because I'm, excuse that. I've got, you can see I'm decorating here. But I just wanted to show you what the car did look like and what I looked like a long time ago. And I want to just thank two people for this photograph who I've kept very prominently displayed, and that's Marcus and Gambrel Wagner, who are wonderful friends of mine in Texas. If you're watching this, hi guys, hope you're having a great time out there, not suffering too much under the current conditions. But anyway, this was me back then. That isn't my castle. I wasn't doing that well. That's actually Battle Abbey. We went for a trip there and I thought, get a photo. And there's me with the car as it was back then, and I just felt fantastic. But, one thing you learn in life, by the time I was not even 30, I'd kind of done everything I wanted to do financially and with my life. I had a beautiful woman, I was with her, I had a great car, I had a house. I just thought, I've kind of done it, what can I do? What do I do with my life? And I just kind of sat on it all, really. And I got lazy. And I found with time that the endless parts and components of this car that always need replacing, I couldn't afford to do. And the ironic thing is, if I pop the bonnet down, I'll do that now actually. Let's do that. If you actually look under the bonnet of this car, I was always so close to getting it. Hang on, let's have a look here. I was always so close to getting it back to running. And the ironic thing is, you see, like that radiator was virtually brand new. I've only done hardly any mileage on it before something else went wrong with the radiator there. You've got the viscous coupling there, that was problematic. That was replaced, that was fine. There was lots of components that are actually, there's hardly any use on those. You wouldn't believe it to look at it, but there's hardly any use on those. So every time it seemed I got close to getting it back where I wanted it, something bigger came along. There's always things going on in my life, and I could never bear to part with it. It was something that I had so many memories of, and that's one thing I say to you when it comes to this car. It's not so much what it is, it's the memories that it makes. And I know that any one of you who's ever been in this, and some of you have, and are listening to this, but particularly family members, I mean, these back seats right here, right? Both my grandmothers have been in those two back seats. They both, one of them no longer sadly with us, but they remember, and anyone who has an encounter with it remembers. It's the impact it has and what it means to other people, and that is why it's a precious thing. And not just that, I would recommend to you, I say this tongue-in-cheek, okay, but if you ever have the means, right, they're not crazy expensive, get yourself a classic car. It doesn't have to be a Rolls Royce. It can be something, something with a bit of status, something with a bit of memory. It can be really well kept everyday car, like a Ford Capri. It could be a Cortina. It wouldn't matter. It's just a really well kept old classic car. There's just a romance about it, and I'd recommend it. Just do it. If you're listening to this, you get nothing else from watching this whole saga of trying to watch the Rolls Royce start. Get yourself a classic, all right? You'll have so much fun, so many memories. Yes, it will break down. Yes, you'll have to spend lots of money, but I promise you, right, that it will be worth it. I guarantee you that. So that's essentially, in the old iron, that's my ever encouraging neighbour there, Carl, who's sitting on the tee. Son of a gun. He loves it. He doesn't want to admit it. He loves his car, really. And I know you watch this car, and I know his kids will as well, Sam. Sam's been watching it, and Ben. But anyway, so essentially that's the plan. So I have got things happening with it. That's a little bit of the story of the car. It meant a lot to me. I can't afford to keep it. I just want to hear it run one more time at least. And at the very least, what I want to do is get it started, because then I can get it in this garage. I mean, lots of people I've seen on YouTube make these amazing videos where they, and this is a big shout out to Vice Grip Garage, okay? If you look it up on YouTube, look up Vice Grip Garage. If you love anything about cars, watch this guy. He's an inspiration. He'll go out into the middle of the woods somewhere in America, find some car that's been left standing for like 17 years, get it started, and then he'll drive it home. He'll drive it home like 500 miles or something. And it was watching some of the stuff he did that actually inspired me, and I actually did some of the techniques he did in the view to getting this going, but I am nowhere, unfortunately, as competent a mechanic as he is. In fact, I'm hardly a mechanic at all. I just know a few basic things. So that's kind of the story of the roller. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologise to you for the lack of progress that has been so far in the last week or so. It's still on the horizon, right? And I promise you, all you watching this, that I will catch the moment she starts, and then we'll see if it'll move. We'll get to that, but we'll catch the moment that it starts. And it will happen, okay? And so I just want to say, hey guys, it's still happening. It's still on the horizon. That's the story of the car. That's how it came to be. And thank you all so much. And anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to put this on to internet, and you can hear for yourself. So that's it. So thanks a lot, guys. Thank you, guys and girls. Thank you all so much. And I'll keep you all posted, and I'll speak to you soon. Catch you later. Bye.